Recording is in progress.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. So everybody, welcome to, we are now on week 33 of our Indigenous Global Unity Summit series. So as we evolve, my presentation actually evolves every week, but some things always remain the same. And I do always start these sessions every day by doing a land acknowledgement. So the first thing that I will do is acknowledge those who came before us on this land. So I'd like to say that we begin today by acknowledging that we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous people, and we recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We're grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources, and we're committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. Also here in Toronto, we acknowledge the land we're meeting here is the traditional territory of the nations, including the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, now home, of course, to many diverse peoples. We'd also like to acknowledge the land we're on here in Toronto is at the meeting place of two treaties, the land of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of the First Nations of the Williams Treaty. We'd also thank them and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land with us. We also acknowledge and recognize all of the world's Indigenous peoples as stewards of Mother Earth. So I will begin again today with the standard presentation. Share my screen. Might be a tad slow today because I did not.
Yeah, all participants can share their screen as necessary.
Mm-hmm. So I didn't get a chance to restart my computer, so I'm not sure if it's bogged down with other things. Sometimes I tend to want to restart the computer before I do these presentations usually. Anyway, this is, as always, I start this by giving recognition to our supporters and sponsors, in particular Andrew Networks, which has, as I noted before, replaced EDFU Foundation as our primary sponsor of the Global Unity Network, weekly Thursday Zoom calls, which will now continue through to December 29th, 2022, with Andrew Networks also being, or also rebroadcasting production-ready episodes on the AHIABGA-TV or AHIABGA.org domain, which are being redirected to the UCIT-TV site. So I will, oops, open up the chat here again. Make sure I'm sending to everyone. I just want to put in the links to the channels. So you'll also see the logos on this page for the Mount Hill Aloha Project, the 5.2 Foundation, which Andrew just talked about, the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, Future Net Foundation, the Global Women's Development Network, Global Peace Let's Talk, Community Development Foundation, American International Education Federation, and many others, including the EDFU Foundation as well. So again, we'll put in a few links for people to get to those websites so they can find more information about each one of those organizations. So Andrew Networks, I want to mention, our primary sponsor, supporting the promotional ecosystem for the Global Unity Network initiative, now through December 29th, 2022. And it is Andrew Networks that does donate our hosting and promotional support services. So Andrew Networks, being a brand and domain name owned by XTC Export Trading Company, comprising various social media channels, including TRN TV, Universal Citizens Media Networks, Conversations with Andrew Williams Jr., and many more. again, into the chat, I put more information. So Andrew also founded, of course, the ad hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, Advocates, and Activists in September 2019, with a focus on localizing the Sustainable Development Goals during this decade of action on delivery for the SDGs, 2020-2030. Andrew later appointed me as a representative for Canada, La Francophonie, and the Commonwealth Nations countries, and published that originally on January 1st, 2020, with my appointment as a representative for Turtle Island being added later just last year. So yeah, the ambassadors can be found at the link in the chat. So my name, of course, is Lloyd Healthy. I am the Chief Ecosystem Director, Program Development Director, and Sustainable Society Consultant for Energize University, which is headquartered in Manhattan, New York. Although I am located in the city of Markham in the Greater Toronto area in Southern Ontario, Canada. Energize University being a private company established to create or to help empower local populations to reestablish a sustainable balance in the local environments. Energize does this by designing and implementing projects that support a strong and diversified local economy while integrating core sustainable technologies and infrastructure into these communities in the areas of renewable energy, high-density food growth, managing local waste streams, and protecting local water resources. So Energize is supported by over 375 companies whose products and technologies they employ. Importantly, Energize University also supports local education and training in the construction, deployment, and maintenance of these various integrated solutions for achieving closed-loop systems that in turn support self-sufficient, sustainable communities. I will put in my contact information in that as well. So through the work we are doing, I'm also a co-founder and administrator of the Energize Global Corporation Turtle Island International Civil Society organization that is seeking to undertake what we call life value education in the context of life learning gardens. So I put a link to the Energize Global Corporation Turtle Island International Civil Society organization into the chat. But as noted earlier, I was also designated as a Goodwill Ambassador for the 5 Points Youth Foundation in Los Angeles with a portfolio that covers Canada, La Francophonie, Commonwealth of Nations, and Turtle Island communities as a member of this ad hoc international advisory boards of Goodwill Ambassadors and activists seeking to empower our communities to engage with royal, Indigenous, and tribal leadership, as well as interfaith, neighborhood, and business collaborators, which is seeking to leave no one behind. So again, in the chat, I'll put some information about the ad hoc international advisory board. So I'm also a co-founder of the Global Unity Business Group, which came together as a coalition of small businesses in order to establish, manage, and grow the Global Unity Network. So the Global Unity Business Group being a humanitarian enterprise, global sustainable and regenerative development corporation supporting and promoting the local delivery of open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure set up as life learning gardens along with the hybrid virtual learning platform we call the VCN, or the Interchange for Peace. So the Global Unity Business Group was actually created in order to formalize this process of localization of the global goals, starting with the SDGs, which is being done by the establishment of this Global Unity Network, which so far includes Unity Gardens Network, the Unity Learning Network, along with many other dedicated Unity networks, all being important components of the network of networks. So the existing social media, WhatsApp and Facebook and LinkedIn groups that we are using right now are simply being used as a placeholder as we build our global network and prepare to launch, where we'll eventually get all of our people, companies, and nodes of our network onto this VCN where they'll be able to gain access to many tools and services that are available there, and where they can then much more easily collaborate in order to implement globally coordinated real-world projects. So again, Global Business Group has a number of social media. I am putting that information into the chat as well. So the Global Unity Network was actually created to showcase global cooperation for the implementation of the local regenerative solutions for achieving the global goals, starting with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. So our goal is to uplift the traditionally marginalized communities that are mostly being left behind because the existing economic paradigm very much focused on making money for those who already have wealth by extracting resources through exploitation, often over-exploitation of people and the natural world. And therefore, the majority of people on Earth are mostly being ignored by our existing highly competitive economy. So our focus is thus on the billions of people who exist or subsist on the economic sidelines, where we intend to start our work by delivering solutions for people and communities in some of the least developed countries, communities, and local economies that in particular are most food insecure. So again, social media for our Global Unity Network in the chat. So the Global Unity Network is promoting the delivery of practical solutions for achieving the global goals, starting with the Sustainable Development Goals. During this SDG period until 2030, we are focused on using these tools that are listed on the screen of humanitarian entrepreneurship, focusing mostly on female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs and enterprises, along with a hybrid virtual and hands-on education and training or learning programs and platforms, with a primary focus on delivery of this humanitarian entrepreneurship skills training in these practical settings, practical learning, along with leveraging various open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions to remotely assist local INABC teams to establish local open source Unity Garden classrooms in all local communities around the world. So the Unity Garden classrooms set up in conjunction with existing schools in local communities can be used for this local remote and virtual delivery of the practical learning programs for the FFHE in order to learn how to grow, process, cook, market, sell, and trade the various types of regenerative, climate smart food and related nutritional and medicinal and other types of locally produced regenerative products, both within their own local communities, as well as regionally, nationally, continentally, and even internationally or globally, in order to produce income and therefore greater prosperity in their local communities for all people on all continents, with the intention, of course, and the goal of leaving no one behind. So we have the Unity Smart Cities Network, which we have recently established, that I am putting into the chat for people to connect to as well. So we also promote through virtual social marketing all of the members of our network. So we are using all of the various practical social media, networking, and trade tools, including those of the modern Fourth Industrial Revolution, combining this wisdom of crowds with the deep Indigenous knowledge of both our ancestors and the living Indigenous people of this earth, in order to learn from each other about how to share the abundance of this planet in order to create productive, regenerative, climate smart landscapes wherever we live, in and around each of all of our local communities. So our intention is also to help restore nature and biodiversity, ensure abundance for all, and ultimately restore the human connection to Mother Earth as proper stewards of our one and only beautiful planet. So importantly, an important network is the Unity Biodiversity Network, which I have put into the chat. So the Global Unity Network, virtual collaborative network, is a hybrid learning system, and the model will be delivered through both the Unity Gardens for hands-on experiential practicum learning, as well as through this digital VCN that bundles all of the various functions of individual websites into a single site or collaborative portal that allows for all of the digital virtual learning to be delivered alongside the place where e-commerce also takes place. So it is actually an all-in-one platform for trade, commerce, and learning bundled into a single platform. So the VCN uses this digital collaborator engine intended to turbocharge the networking, exchange, trade, and education delivery capabilities of and for the members of the network. It's also called the PXN, or partner exchange ecosystem. The digital collaboration technology helps organizations in the 6 areas of digital transformation, especially for leadership, strategy, customer intimacy, business service, agile transformation, and health check analysis for their organizations. So we believe that this VCN platform can help every organization become an agile organization for the 21st century, helping them to move beyond this current health pandemic. So the VCN also intended to be a stepping stone toward this new vision of the internet called the metaverse, which of course has a lot of attention recently with the renaming of Facebook to that new corporate name Meta, which actually refers to this metaverse. So again, into the chat, I am putting some information about the metaverse and where we are headed. So the Global Unity Network Business Group is managing the Global Unity Network geographically by helping to create these localized country, regional, and continental unity network, local business development networks that serve to manage the local and community networks. But we want to create regional and continental unity network organizations to organize, and we want them to organize themselves according to the concepts and principles of what's called sociocracy, which will assist communities in each country to establish these local and regional community engagement teams that we call INAB collaboratives or INABCs, these interfaith, neighborhood, academic, and business collaboratives. But the primary purpose of both the business and the network is really to promote this ad hoc international advisory board goodwill ambassador process of localization of the global goals, specifically by promoting processes that help local communities establish partnerships as per SDG 17 that will support local humanitarian entrepreneurs who are dedicated to implementing the various local regenerative community-based enterprise solutions for achieving the global goals. So I'll begin a little bit about sociocracy into the chat. So the Global Unity Network, I actually want to talk about the purpose of the Global Unity Network here. Our main purpose really for the Global Unity Network country chapters is essentially to use this AHIABGA process of globalization of global goals, a specific community engagement process, in order to assist local communities to establish and maintain local and regional interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives, these INAB collaboratives, in each local community according to this multi-stakeholder AHIABGA matrix partnership template. For example, the partnership between Drawdown Markham CSO and the 5 Point Youth Foundation NGO is being done through the We Energize Operation Turtle Island International Civil Society Organization, whose mandate is actually to deliver life value peace education within the context of Life Learning Gardens, which we also call Unity Gardens. So under the framework of cooperation that was created, rather than just looking at the individual projects on a one-by-one basis, the Global Unity Network is being created to establish a global support network that will help to establish these local support networks of professionals in each local community where projects are to be implemented, and where ultimately the design and assessments of projects are not to be done by people who are remote to the communities of projects, but rather by the trusted people who are living closest to the projects, including the beneficiaries, especially those who are currently the most marginalized in those specific communities. And I'm putting some information into the chat around this concept of localization. So our goals are also to support and uplift people in marginalized communities through the delivery of learning programs, the practical hands-on educational training, and promote all the youth and female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs around the world who either have or wish to implement these replicable regenerative solutions for achieving the global goals, starting with the Sustainable Development Goals. But we focus on regenerative solutions that can be localized one community at a time, starting in the least developed countries, communities, and economies by working with people that have been most forgotten and marginalized with the intention of leaving them behind. I am going to put in a little bit of information about this concept called open source hardware, where open source hardware actually consists of physical artifacts of technology designed and offered by the open design movement. So these are both free and open source software and open source hardware created by open source culture movement and applied to the solutions that we would like to implement. So our philosophy is actually embedded in this concept that machines are not the economy. People doing things is what makes an economy. And so if we can lift people from poverty, or better yet, empower them to lift themselves from poverty, we'll have automatically injected new life into what's called the global economy. So the goal really of the Global Unity Network is uplifting these bottom billions of people. So our ultimate goal being teaching people how to feed themselves, what we call the climate smart way, where we would think of the old saying, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, and feed him for a lifetime. So the Global Unity Network is all about teaching, especially women and youth, to fish, so they no longer need to be fed the next day when they're hungry again. So we focus on promoting and demonstrating only these open source solutions. So our moniker being open source regenerative climate smart food growing infrastructure, set up as these Unity Garden classrooms at and with schools, including universities, colleges, high schools. So I can also send anyone who wishes to read more a 4-page PDF document that describes the Global Unity Network in more detail. So I will put into the chat some information, especially about the Unity Gardens Network. So the Global Unity Network, one of our key programs is actually called the CTP Program, or Collaborative Tree Planting Program. So the CTP program being created in order to help enable local management of an adaptation to long-term social, economic, and planetary impacts, to help create legacy forests, especially for people, biodiversity, and the planet, and to help secure energy and food resources, climate resilience, and poverty alleviation. So we aim to teach people about how they can implement the various rural and urban holistic sustainability infrastructure that we are promoting. And we will help to deliver this knowledge to people who are in local communities throughout our network. So the learning programs of the network partners will be delivered using this lens, what we call humanitarian entrepreneurship, education, and training programs, especially for youth educators and decision makers of all kinds. Through our programs, local communities will come together to create these INAP collaboratives through the commemorative tree plantings that are part of the 400th and 800th anniversary Tree of Peace and Reconciliation ceremonial initiatives, many of which have already taken place in cities and communities around the world since late 2019. So the original twin Trees of Peace and Reconciliation tree plantings, the first one took place here in Canada, in Pickering, Ontario, then subsequently took place in Bermuda. They were this precursor to the ongoing tree plantings that are part of this social enterprise arrangement with Forest Nation in their You Plant, We Plant program through the We Energize Global Cooperation International Civil Society Organization, which is working closely with Plant for the Planet organization, which intends to plant actually 1 trillion trees around the world over the next few decades. So again, I will put into the chat more information about this. So we are supporting and work in partnership with the Unity programs of the local Unity Network organizations that have been established and continue to be established around the world and deliver various projects, campaigns, and events such as the Tree of Peace Reconciliation tree planting ceremonies, the Sunlight Spectacle virtual entertainment events and shows, along with these Indigenous Global Unity Summit, a series of events which will continue to take place until the end of this year, at least, as well as coordinated international bubble fun festivals. And importantly, must be mentioned, we're also working in support of the expansion of the Global Women's Development Network. And I wanted to ask everybody to please register to participate in the International Women's Day Conference that will take place later this year from March 4th to 8th, 2022. I will put in more information about some of our events, along with information about the some of the events that we have done in the past and some of the events that we will continue to do into the future. And importantly here, I will put in a link to the International Women's Development event Global Women's Development Network is hosting in shortly in March. So, as noted, we are supporting and promoting the local delivery of open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure, again, set up as life learning gardens designed for delivery of hands-on practical learning programs supporting all manner of life value peace education. So these include the CSV Gardens, the Victory Forest, the Climate Smart Kitchens, the Smart Learning Centers, or Climate Smart Education and Training Centers, and the Wheel of Life Farms and Farm Schools. Again, I will put into the chat some of the associated networks. So the projects that we do include a sacred site and watershed mapping project, the CTP program, which I mentioned, the collaborative tree planting initiative for twinning communities, along with collaboration for the development of a system of payments for ecosystem services for certified climate smart products that help to permanently sequester carbon and that are made by the humanitarian enterprises that are helping to implement the global solutions for achieving the global goals, starting with the SDGs. So some of our other key campaigns include what we call a dream boards in every community campaign to establish local community dream boards, where we help to mobilize the youth and help turn their dreams into reality, and a tea diplomacy initiative that connects local farmers, growers, and entrepreneurs across geographies and among members of communities that may not otherwise ever get a chance to talk to each other and get to know each other as people, with the idea being to sit down, even if only virtually, to have tea, relax, and discuss some of the local solutions to the global problems like food security, hunger, climate change, the environment, peace, security, and the well-being of people and the environments in each of our own local communities. So people participate, would discuss the kinds of teas they like to drink, foods they like to eat while they're drinking these teas, and the unique teas they grow in their own local communities and region, and the importance of these teas, especially to the local people and cultures. So again, I put in a little bit about these initiatives into the chat. Again, I wanted to mention UnityNet Africa, our first continental Africa Unity Network Development Network. Just hearing a little bit of sound here, I'm not sure where that's coming from. So our first UnityNet Africa and Diaspora Continental Network is intended to be a safe space for cooperative discussion and with others in the Global Unity Network as we develop a continental network for all of the people of Africa and for eventual replication across all of the countries worldwide, starting with the least developed countries, communities, and economies, as indicated. We call these the LDCCEs. So the initial board of directors for the African Continental Unity Network is listed on the slide. The new board of directors also has confirmed an official advisory board. Carlos Richard Sanko from UnityNet Sierra Leone is the new continental president, and Dr. Mary Ifeanyi from Nigeria is the new Vice Continental President. Sierra Leone is actually one of the oldest Global Unity Network chapters, which has now 10 trees of peace and reconciliation already planted in communities across the country. Those serve as a precursor for the creation of the local INAB collaboratives and the establishment of the Unity Garden classroom infrastructure. So the new board of directors of UnityNet Africa and Diaspora was put together, if you look at the people, in a way to try to represent the 6 regions of Africa, and the selection process made an attempt to achieve gender balance of the board by ensuring that half of the board members and leaders were women, again, as per SDG 5 gender equality. So the African team is now working in cooperation with the existing Global Unity Network country chapters in Africa to create a model for the development of a continental and regional network of networks by working with the grassroots people in the country chapters, with the African model eventually being replicated in order to create country chapters across all 55 African nations. Will likely also establish a formal dialogue in connection to the African Union. But the African success is not just for Africa, will also be for other continents and countries around the world. We will focus our efforts, as always, of course, on the least developed countries, communities, and economies, and those communities that are being furthest left behind. So again, I will put in a bit about UnityNet Africa into the chat so people can connect to those networks as well. So we are also planning to link the North American, Turtle Island, and African agendas across time and space, linking our programs together in a way that makes sense by developing what we're calling the reverse CTP program, modeled on the original CTP program developed by Drawdown Markham in late 2019. So the business group has its home in Canada, but the strong support and involvement, especially from Sierra Leone, Kenya, and the United States. I'd also like for everyone on this call to consider joining one or more following groups that were also critical to the Global Unity Network, including, of course, the main social media discussions that have been created by the Global Unity Business Group, the Humanitarian Enterprise and Global Sustainable and Regenerative Development Corporation that is supporting this local delivery of open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure, these life learning gardens or Unity gardens. Again, into the chat, I will put the many of the links that you see on the screen here. I do want to mention some important or even critical nodes of the Global Unity Network as well, including the Regenerative Living, Learning, and Lifestyle Network, the Unity Learning Network, the Unity Health Network, the Unity Eco Village Network, the Indigenous Global Unity Network, as well as the Unity Environment Network and Unity Biodiversity Network. We're also developing other essential nodes in the network, including the Peace Centers Network, a Children and Youth Network, which I will mention later, Smart Communities and Cities Network, a Social Business Network, Climate Smart Tourism Network, aligning again with the tourism for SDGs mandates, a Women's and Feminist Network for our humanitarian entrepreneur business owners and managers to exchange tips, tricks, and ideas among themselves, along with a number of other critical networks and nodes. Most recently, as well, a Unity Water Network was established that is designed to address all of the various water sustainability issues that are related to the achievement of the global goals as we attempt to transition to a regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So along with the new water network, we've also established a localized net zero team supporting the creation of a campaign for globalization of global goals, where we're focused on cities who are attempting to achieve their net zero ambitions. We'll likely focus our attention on the C40 Cities Network through a proposed partnership between GGH or GHH, the UN Global Compact, and the C4 Cities Network, along with the C4 group, for all of the people in all of the cities of the world who are members of the C40, but especially also for every marginalized person in every country, city, and local community and economy on Earth, inclusive, of course, of all Africans and all Indigenous people of the world. And so this is a local project of UnityNet GTA, also being coordinated together with the founder of the Indigenous Global Unity flag, whose cousin is actually a famous hip hop artist here in Ontario. So we'll put in, again, links to the different groups I talked about here, shown on the screen for people to consider. Oops. Sitting here. So the Global Unity Network is actually being created to promote everyone equally who is working or who is willing to work together with us in solidarity toward the achievement of the global goals, not just for the success of their own business. So within the Global Unity Network, the health of people and planet must be placed front and center. The first purpose of the Global Unity Network, is to help establish these global network of local INAB collaboratives, or interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives. So the new name we are using is Interfaith Neighborhood Academic and Business Collaboratives. As per what you're seeing here, the HEPTA Matrix Partnership template, which is shown on this slide. But the Global Unity Network has a very specific focus on this specific area of development, which is this hybrid virtual and hands-on practicum education and training done in the context of and for regenerative development solutions, for which we intend to assist people in local communities to build and demonstrate at least one of the 5 different regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions in their own local communities in collaboration with the existing local learning institutions. So it's intended that these Unity Garden solutions will, at minimum, be able to address at least 2 of the Sustainable Development Goals, the first being SDG 2, Zero Hunger, the second being SDG 13, Climate Action. And again, I will put in some information about those 2 goals, which are very important to deliver in every community. So we are building a global network that cuts across all areas of humanitarian entrepreneurship learning as they relate to the implementation of the various local solutions for achieving global goals, and that are related to a more specific focus on climate smart food and related regenerative development solutions that will help humanity move beyond the sustainable development goals eventually into a new era of regenerative development, however that might ultimately be defined post-2030. But we are starting the conversation now, about 8 years ahead of the inevitable transition to the next phase of the global goals, post-2030, where the SDGs are now just the second phase of this Millennium Development Project to achieve peace on Earth in a way that leaves no one behind. And where the larger Millennium Development Project intends that all of humanity can be uplifted and empowered to achieve their highest potential. And again, in terms of that concept, I am putting some information about NADO's hierarchy of needs and a definition from the 5 Points Youth Foundation on this idea of regenerative development. Oops, sorry for that. So on this slide, complicated graphic it looks like, you'll see that the Unity Network African Diaspora, being our first continental chapter that I talked about of the Global Unity Network, the continental chapters are being created in order to facilitate the establishment of these country chapters of the Global Unity Network on the specific continental geographical jurisdiction where the continental chapter has responsibility. The country chapters are being created in order to facilitate the establishment of the local INAB collaboratives, those interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives at the local level in each community. So the INAB collaboratives, or the INABCs, are established at the local level where we're leveraging our unique process of community engagement, initially through the planting of the trees of peace and reconciliation planting ceremonies. So followed by ongoing community engagement with interaction through regularly scheduled events throughout the year, including the coordinated public fun festivals, which will be done in collaboration with the local AHIABGA members, the CTP program for twinning the community activities, such as community organized tree plantings or other local regenerative public community infrastructure development projects and events, the Tea Diplomacy Initiative, Dream Boards Initiative, done in collaboration with the C4 group members, identification of and engagement with local talent, artists and creative people in the orange economy for the purpose of promoting and showcasing their talent, but especially in promoting as they promote the globalization of the global goals and the regenerative economy during any one of our Sunlight Spectacle or other edutainment events. Of course, any other programs or activities that may be developed in the context of the CSD Gardens and the forests that are delivered by a VOC, or the Climate Smart Kitchens delivered by Kindred Kitchens, or the Wheel of Life Farms delivered by an organization called EPWT in Vietnam, or ESRLA in the USA, the Spark Learning Centers, Climate Smart Learning Centers, also delivered by the PodNet Co-op, which is a global co-op. So I want to put as well, again, some information about our local UnityNet GGA into the chat so people can understand sort of the concept of the INAP collaborative. So I wanted to note as well, the Unity Gardens of the Global Unity Network encourage co-learning, intercultural collaboration, and what is called two-eyed seeing. The Unity Gardens are places where children are taught that no one being is greater than the next, that we are part and parcel of the whole, that we are equal, that each one of us has a responsibility to the balance of the system, and an understanding that all of the world's species, all our bio and eco kin, have contributions to make. So I wanted to see everybody to see the two-eyed seeing, or a tuap guiding principle for intercultural collaboration. So I will put additional information about that into the chat as well. You see the links on screen. I also want to mention the 4K clubs. On November 27th last year, we established 2 new discussion groups within the Global Unity Network, including this first one, the Global Unity 4K Clubs Network, which was established with Susan Wasiego from Kenya and Ambassador Dr. Mary Solanke from Nigeria, whose members of this network will begin the process of organizing the development of some standard learning modules that can be customized and aligned to the local school curriculum as required, and where these modules are to be delivered in the context of the Unity Gardens by the members and partners of the local INABCs that have been established in each local community where the Unity Network continental, country, and regional chapters have been established. I will put into the chat a link to join the 4K Clubs network. As well, the second important connection that we established was with Tukatana EV in Germany. Late last year, we initiated a preliminary discussion about the establishment of Tukatana EV Canada NGO organization, which is already delivering the Tukatana Women's Empowerment Project in Africa. In Canada, we'd like to establish the Tukatana EV Canada NGO in order to apply this ad hoc international advisory board goodwill ambassador process of globalization of global goals in all of our local communities so that we can establish the local CSOs, those local INABCs, which are the local organizations that will be delivering the global Unity 4K Club learning programs that help to uplift the youth and FFHEs intergenerationally and across geographies to help bridge the gap between urban and rural in order to achieve our objectives of delivering quality education, SDG 4, through partnerships, SDG 17. So through Tukatana EV Canada, we'll also be assisting our colleagues in Germany to establish a UnityNet Continental chapter in Europe as well, which will focus their efforts on supporting homeless and displaced people, such as economic conflict or climate migrants. So I will put in links to the Tukitane group into the chat. So one of the reasons for establishing the Global Unity Network is for children and youth. I just need to mute that. And so we have established a children and youth network to support and establish a pool of experts for those who are organizing the Global Coordinated Climate Smart Youth Forum, the hybrid virtual and in-person event that we'd like to take place as a key part of our Global Unity Network yearly activities, with this year being offered to take place during the Lagos Peace Awards ceremonies hosted by Yeli International in Nigeria, in partnership with UnityNet Nigeria and with the support of UnityNet Africa and Diaspora, culminating on World Food Day, October 16th, 2022. I wanted to note as well that the Climate Smart Youth Forum Week, which happens during the 13 days between October 4th, Global Cooperation Day, and October 16th, World Food Day, the events, those activities and contributions can take place in or come from any country during that period of time, where any presentations or activities can be recorded and delivered remotely to all people who are members of the network globally through this Interchange for Peace VCN. So the primary host this year, 2022, is UnityNet Nigeria, since they did a pre-launch event last year on the same date, and Dr. Monday Amadou from Yeli International, the Youth Education and Leadership Initiative, will be working with his teams in Nigeria in cooperation again with the other members of the Global Unity Network and UnityNet Africa and Diaspora to launch this first of what we hope will become the Global Unity Network's big annual event that happens every year in at least one country in the world during the days between Global Cooperation Day and World Food Day, so between October 4th and 16th. So I will put in information about the youth network into the chat. So again, as well, during Global Climate Smart Youth Forum Week, we have also proposed that the local INAB collaboratives, if they are ready to do so, can, if they have local plan to do so, participate in a globally coordinated community tree planting campaign to start establishing 3D polyculture food forests in all local communities across Africa and around the world, where communities can also begin establishing victory forest unity gardens, which also serve as sacred spaces in their local communities in collaboration with at least one or more local learning institutions, where the Unity Gardens will be configured for the delivery of the various Global Unity 4K Club humanitarian entrepreneurship learning programs to all of the local youth and FFHE in each specific local community. So the Unity Gardens sacred spaces are established in local communities through the twinned planting of those trees of peace and reconciliation that are to take place on World Environment Day, June 5th, during our Abraham Project Tree of Peace and Reconciliation Showcase Project for Global Cooperation event that will be designed for establishing a global network of local INAB collaboratives. So these interfaith neighborhood, academic, and business collaboratives in every local community that participates. So through the CTP program, the Collaborative Tree Planting Program, with the intent of the entire campaign to establish this global unity network, Unity Gardens in every local community around the world in support of the programs, such as Canada's promise to plant 2 billion trees, and in Africa, the Great Green Wall Initiative, the 100 million tree plantation that was launched in 2007 by the African Union, and it's being described as sort of a game-changing African-led initiative. They want to restore Africa's degraded landscapes and transform millions of lives in some of the poorest regions like the Sahel. But our goal is actually much bigger. It's not only is this a private sector initiative, it doesn't rely on taxpayer money to do it. We'll also aim to plant 15 billion trees in local communities across Africa, established as Victory Forest Unity Gardens with as many of these gardens established as we can over the next 8 years, so by 2030. But with these yearly tree planting campaigns continuing into the next phase of the global goals for post-2030, at least up until the year 2063, in alignment with the African Union's Agenda 2063. So the task of the UnityNet Africa and Diaspora in this year, with the help of the rest of the members of the Global Unity Network, will be to flesh out the details of a plan and then bring it to the Executive Council of the African Union so that all of the countries and governments and civil society organizations and businesses across Africa and indeed around the world can begin to get behind this large campaign. So again, I will put in some information about the African Union's Agenda 2063 into the chat, along with some information about our own groups, related groups on tree planting groups in Nigeria, for instance. Discussions. So I'd just like to say that we all need to be open to learning from each other in order to get the best of all wisdoms, so that we can come to a healthy middle ground and a place that will hopefully have all of us emerge into a world that benefits the maximum number of people and the maximum number of species and environments that we live in, and where we must learn to live in harmony, not just with ourselves, but also with all of nature as well. What the Indigenous people of Turtle Island refer to as all relations and all of the other living things on this planet from which our bodies are constructed through the patterns created by the instructions in each of our individual DNA. Thus, all of the members of the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board are attempting to rewrite the playbook about how to engage with all people around the world by helping to uplift all of humanity and move us beyond the era of colonialism. So it is a grand project, one that will likely take our lifetime, at least maybe more than one lifetime. It's a huge challenge for an entire generation of young people around the world to try and achieve by working together with our elders and in solidarity with all others, including Indigenous people, especially in the context of climate change and biodiversity loss, and soil fertility losses, desertification, population pressures, oil, and land use pressures, and deforestation, and peak phosphorus, which is looming on the horizon, health crisis, rampant misinformation, corruption, which is of course still far too widespread, along with waste management and pollution issues, which of course are causing widespread contamination of our ecosystems, including the CO2 emissions, plastics, a variety of toxics, including toxics that are deliberately applied to our living environments, like the many chemicals used in industrial farming, like glyphosate and other antibiotics, which literally means maybe like chemicals designed to kill life forms, mostly but microbiome, which is actually what keeps us alive, if you think about what's in our guts and allows us to digest food. So this is why our Global Unity Network is actually seeking to help uplift the marginalized peoples such that we can work together to teach the next generation of young people how they can feed the world through systems that help keep us healthy, developing and leveraging our activities to undertake, supporting their local businesses that will also help to restore the environment, including by tackling and adapting to climate change, where it would all be done through this lens of what's called humanitarian entrepreneurship, with the ultimate goal of achieving a regenerative economy, which I put into the link, the Regenerative Living, Learning, and Lifestyle Network. So we are an inclusive network. This, as the slide indicates, inclusive of everyone's networks insofar as we agree to uplift and promote each other and each other's good work. We therefore do these three main things. We help people in local communities create these local INAP collaboratives through the AHIABGA process of localization of the goals. Then we help to facilitate the localized delivery of the regenerative economy learning programs that others have developed, and which is done through the Unity Learning Network, to and for and by the members of the INABCs worldwide. And finally, we promote everyone who is willing to work together with us in solidarity toward the practical and necessary achievement of the global goals. So the Global Unity Network being a network of networks that is inclusive of everyone's network, but only if they agree to uplift and promote each other and each other's good work, and not only to place themselves at the center. So in summary, the humanitarian entrepreneurship learning programs that we are supporting are focused on engaging youth, educators, and decision makers in learning programs and the community engagement processes, with a strong emphasis on women and girls as leaders in their communities and also their own homes and families as per SDG 5, gender equality. The goal of our business and network is to eventually establish a new 21st century economy of compassion and cooperation, and the recognition of life as being fundamentally more important than money value, where money is just a fictional construct created by humans that helps us to make decisions about the most economic pathway to achieving certain outcomes, which are based on the goals that we individually and collectively set for ourselves as human beings. So the Global Unity Network that we're establishing is a network that includes platforms for delivering education, training, awareness raising, open idea, and cultural exchange programs, is being managed by the Global Unity Business Group. The hybrid learning network we're creating consists of the virtual collaborative network, that interchange for peace, that is networked through social media, and will be implemented alongside a network of internet-enabled international Unity learners, which is in turn supported by a Unity learning network of educators who understand the importance of delivering programs of life value peace education in each of our own local communities. Again, and I will put in a few of the links to the Unity learning network. On this final slide for today, I show some sustainability guidelines. I usually leave this slide up on the screen for a few moments as well to let people read this. Guidelines were provided to us by Mike Nickerson from the 7th Generation Initiative Sustainability Project, Mike being the author of a book called Life, Money, and Illusion, Living on Earth as If We Want to Stay. So that ends our main presentation today. I'd like also to ask everyone to please put their contact information into the chat window so that others on the call will have your contact information, especially if you are new to the IGU Summit events and the Global Unity Network. So I will stop here, and we do have another special guest presentation today. Just stop share here, and I wanted especially to recognize all the women on our call as we start out our second presentation in a few moments. If I'm seeing our guest speaker, just need to look through here. Looks like we have Jane on the call. Let me just organize here for a second. I have another presentation I have to bring up. So slow, sorry about that, my computer. Okay. So we will begin the second presentation by Gabriella. Gabriella, are you on the line today with us?
Yes, Elda, I'm online.
Oh, there you are. Okay, excellent. So I'm just, there's so many people on the screen there. It's just scanning through. If you would like to start your presentation now, Now I will share my screen with your presentation. Okay, let's see. Just a second. Okay. Okay. This works. Share. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see this. So Gabriella, you can go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Hello. Thank you for joining.
I hope am I clear enough?
Yes, you're clear, and we do see your screen as well. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm called Malaika Gabriella from Uganda. I'm the team leader, JAFOA. At the same time, I'm the secretary. I am the vice president, UnityNet Africa and Diaspora Uganda chapter. I serve at the continental level at UnityNet Africa and Diaspora as the treasurer. Today, I'm humbled to present to the team, to the forum, to everyone that has logged in this evening about what we do in Uganda, my organization that I lead as a team leader, JAFOA. Thank you so much. And I think, let me just go through the presentation quickly, not to take a lot of time. As Mr. Lloyd is sharing the screen, I am passionate with women. I am passionate.
You have to unmute yourself. We lost your sound. Please unmute yourself. We lost your sound. Gabriella?
Okay, technically, thank you. I am there. Okay, I have a passion for women and children. I am a women and children activist. So as I'm presenting, Mr. Leo, just go to the next slide. The next slide. The next slide. Yeah, the outline, we have the situational analysis, organizational introduction, the core program areas, those are the key activities, our summary of achievements to date as JAFOA, what we've learned in our work, our opportunities, the challenges we've encountered, and the future plans at JAFOA. Thank you, sir. Go to the next slide. Situation of older persons and the orphaned vulnerable children in Uganda. Yeah, the demography for the elderly. Uganda has adopted the UN definition of elderly persons aged 60 years and above. The older persons are on the special interest group recognized by the 1995 Constitution, and Uganda's population stands at 34,634,650, whereby the 17 million they are males and 17,573,818 are females. Of these, 4.1%, that's 609,072,000 are males and 794,336 are females. They are aged 60 years and above. The just concluded National Housing and Population Census indicates that older persons constitute 3.7% of the entire population of 34.6 million people. That is UBOS 2000. Economic situation, majority of older persons and the OVCs areas where poverty is strife and opportunities are limited. Cases of elderly abuse based on gender and neglect are high. Ill health is common and health services are inadequate. About 85% of the active older persons are engaged in crop farming with no social security, rendering them totally vulnerable. The economic situation is worsened by the burden of looking after orphans and other vulnerable children left by the youth who have succumbed to the HIV and AIDS pandemic. Next slide, please. So the social security, the National Social Security Fund, that's the NSSF, covers only a small percentage of the workforce in Uganda. The empirical evidence reveals that only 7.1% of older persons have access to pension, of which 60% are males. The few beneficiaries of pensions face multiple difficulties in processing their retirement benefits. Though the process has now been decentralized and now pensioners receive their benefits from the last point of employment they served before retirement. Then when we get to the health condition, common health problems of the older persons include hypertension, diabetes, stroke, heart disease, trachoma, blindness, and that often leads to complications and permanent incapacitation. The elderly can hardly afford the cost of traveling to the health facilities here in Uganda, at the sub-district or in the urban centers, where they could access the comprehensive Uganda National Minimum Health Care Package provided by the health sector. The next slide. So when we come to the HIV and AIDS, in Uganda, when we consider the older persons, so older persons here, they are sexually active, caretakers of HIV and AIDS patients, and many are sexually assaulted. These are the elderly. Lack of family support or approval of older persons to marry leads them to secret sexual engagement, which exposes them to HIV and AIDS infection. And whereas government has a strategic framework for coordination and implementation of HIV and AIDS intervention, most of them do not deliberately target the elderly. Those are the older persons. Thank you. Next slide. So when we come to the orphans and the vulnerable children, the children constitute about 57.4% of Uganda's total population of 30.7 million people. This amounts to an estimated 17.1 million children below the age of 18 years, of whom 14%, that's 2.43 million, have been orphaned. 45.6%, that's 1,108,000 of the orphans are due to HIV and AIDS, and 105,000 children between the ages of 0 to 14 are actually HIV positive. At least 1 in every 4 households in Uganda has an orphan, and 3 million children live below the poverty line. Situation analysis 2010. Orphanhood in Uganda, remember, the first challenges with the proportion that are orphan increasing. Actually, the figure of orphans in Uganda is not decreasing anymore, but it keeps on increasing. Example, the percent in 1999-2000, it was 13.4%. 2002, 2003, it shot to 14.8%. 2006, 2005, 2006, or then 2009 and 2010, the magnitude is slightly reduced to 14%. Child vulnerability is related to a wide range of factors, including poverty, orphanhood, weakness of family structures, child labor, life in the streets, disability, diseases, including HIV and AIDS. The next slide, sir. So as I continue, the protection of the vulnerable children, this will include the ones on the streets, the homeless, those under the care of the elderly persons, those are the vulnerable children that we take care of and we continue to fight for their rights. So the protection of the vulnerable children and girls in particular is spotty and unreliable, leaving children at great risk of abuse, neglect, and exploitation in a wide range of settings, such as homes and schools. Food security and nutrition are other cross-cutting issues closely linked to poverty and marginalization, with direct damaging effects on children and their growth, development, and well-being. Of female-headed households, including those of the older women, 35.5% are food insecure, and 38% of the children aged 5 and below are stranded due to child chronic hunger. That's lack of food. Yeah. Across the country, other factors include the gender-based violence, conflicts, displacement, rapid urbanization, which have contributed to child vulnerability too. Child or forced marriages, which is so common in Uganda, I think in Africa as well, commercial sex exploitation, boys being involved in criminality. So in Uganda today, of the 8.1 million children under the age of 18, more than a half are living in situations which present significant risk to their physical, emotional, mental well-being, and may result in their human rights not being fulfilled or their human potential not realized. Thank you, sir. Next slide, please. So in northern Uganda, where we are also based as JAFOA, vulnerability stands at 80%. This includes the Karamoja, the West Nile, and part of the northern, the Lango region. The 2.3 million children who are orphans, 38% are from the war-affected northern area. That's nationwide due to HIV, that's AIDS. 1.76 million children are engaged in child labor. We can confirm that from Statistical Abstract 2008, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, June 2008. Thank you, sir. Next slide, please. So our mission as JAFOA, is to activate for spiritual, medical, and also to support services to these older persons and the orphaned vulnerable children. Our areas of operation include, we've been Kayunga, that's in central Uganda, Kayunga, Mukono, Wakiso districts, they're in central region. Then we have the Lira district, that's in northern region. Then we have the Kumi district, that's in eastern region. Those are our operation areas as JAFOA. Next slide, sir. So who are JAFOA? JAFOA is just an initiative that stands for Jehovah Life for Old Age. Jehovah, we are not Jehovah Witness, but it's just a name that we use to refer to God. So we are not into just Christian alone, but we cater for everyone, leaving no one behind. So we move with everyone, we get along with everyone. Yeah, the Orthodox, the Christians, the Muslims, the witches, we move along with them. So JAFOA stands for Jehovah Life for Old Age. It's a not-for-profit NGO established in 2016 in Uganda, and it has gotten its registration in 2017 at national level. JAFOA has a functional decision-making body. Next, sir. We have a secretariat too responsible for the day-to-day operations of the organization, headed by the executive director. That's the ED. Thank you, sir. Next. So our vision is to have a society where the elderly, the orphans, the vulnerable children always live a healthy life. As I told you, I am women and children supporter. Thank you. Next slide. Thank you. Description of our target groups. So we have the older persons. These are the physically and mentally incapacitated. These are older persons who live without any family or community support. These are the elderly. Next slide, please. We're just describing our target groups. Yeah, older person, the chronically sick. These are older persons who suffer incurable illness. Then the older persons also who are homeless. These are older persons who live in temporary makeshifts in our communities. Then the older persons, these are the widows and the widowers. These older persons that have lost their spouses. Then the older persons who are economically active but poor. These are older persons who are economically active, but they're not gainfully employed. So the needy children. The needy children. Next slide, sir. These are the orphans and the vulnerable children. That's OVC, aged between 4 years and 24 years. Next. An orphan is that child that has lost one or both parents due to HIV, AIDS, or other factors. Thank you. Next slide. So a vulnerable child is one that lives outside family care, that's on the streets, or marginalized, stigmatized, or discriminated against. Needy children that live uncared for by the older persons. Next. So our collaborative partners. You know, partnership is strength and it's power. So we don't do this alone in Uganda. So we partner. So our collaborative partnerships. At the moment, we have the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development in Uganda. We have the National Council for the Elderly. And then we have the Health Nest Uganda. We have Power of the Living Word Ministries in London. That's in United Kingdom. Then we have the Madada Foundation. Thank you, sir. The next slide. So what's our mandate as JAFOA? Our mandate is to address the social, spiritual, medical, and economic needs of these elderly. That's both older women and men, and the OVCs. Those are the orphaned, vulnerable children under their care in Uganda. Next. So core programs or areas or activities, our core areas. So we have healthcare, we have hygiene and environmental sanitation. That picture on my right is one of our clients. Yeah, we have psychosocial support, counseling, recreational activities. Then we have home visits and support of the elderly widow woman. Yeah, so child protection. So we ensure they have access to social services, including formal education, vocational skilling, healthcare, legal. Then we have the women empowerment, which include education, livelihoods, food security, human rights, and life skills. Thank you, sir. Next slide. So summary of our achievements to date. Our achievements as JAFOA 2017 to date. What have we achieved? Next up. So we've done healthcare, as in we ensure that these elderly persons and the children under the older persons and they that are homeless on the street, these are the kids, the children 4 years to 24 years. As JAFOA, we give free healthcare services through outreaches and health camps. We've seen 867 of the older persons and the children getting free medical services, and 251, I think, before the COVID and in through the COVID season. The next, just on my right, that's one of our medical members and that team. So emergency relief items and agricultural inputs, that's hose, seedlings to these older persons and children during the COVID-19 pandemic. We realized during the COVID-19, hunger was at the peak. So we had to support them. We've been doing this. So we got the seedlings, the hose to these older persons. Not all of them, they are strengthless. Some of them, they have the energy, they have the strength. They can go to the garden and they can dig. So we give the agricultural input, those are the hose, the seedlings, even for the children, they can go to the garden still and dig and get some food. That's me with some of our members, the people we are supporting, the children and the elderly. I'm the one in the middle, that's Malaika. Thank you, sir. Next. On my left, that's my team. We are getting to the homes. So there we are giving hose, what they are carrying up their hose, and they were very excited. They have their gardens, they have the land, they have where to put it, but they don't have what to put there. They don't have the hose to dig, they don't have the seedlings, they don't have, some areas have no water. So we step in where we can, and that's what we did. We give hose and we just support seedlings according to how we can be able to. Then on my left, this is where they stay. That's one of our clients. That's his house. Most of them, they don't have where to stay. They have no shelters at all. Some stay just under a tree with their children, being a women and a children activists and the older persons activists. I step in, and that's me, and that's one of our doctors. It's me in blue, one of the doctors and a local leader in that community. This one was in Kayunga. So that's it. Emergency relief items still on that. Maize flour and hose, we give food. Next. So here we are, trainings to orphans and the vulnerable children in Lira. Thus increase their self-esteem to make them informed, to create informed decisions about life. So as you check there, these are girls who had lost hope. So as JAFOA, we just do what we can. Now they are into training, they're into being spoken to on my right, on my left. Classes are going on and they are being taught about the just normal life, how to handle life, skills training to improve their self-esteem and to make them informed, actually, day-to-day decisions. Next slide, sir. So we also provide scholastic materials to these orphans. They really desire to go back to school. They want to study, but many of them, they have no support. So as JAFOA, what we can, we have the support of these older children, the orphans, the street children who want to go back to school by providing scholastic materials and the pens, the books, and there we are. We also bought some few desks for them to sit. Some of them, some schools, they just sit on the floor or under a tree for their studies. So there we are. That's one of our members, the lady and the teacher. Thank you so much. Next up. So that's a case study, a case story rescued from child marriage. The girl child in Uganda, they really are at stake. So it's one of the ways the parents get wealth. So when a child gets to 13 years or to 14 years, they just marry them out for them to get dowry. So the girl in front there, Juliet, had to have hope back to school. She was rescued from a marriage while she was just 13 years old and brought back to school. That's a case study, what we do and what we sensitize to support education for these orphaned, vulnerable children. And we reunite them back to their families as well. So education is key. It boosts their self-esteem in the society. So Juliet is a confident student who excels at math and an aspiring nurse. When she was 15, she stumbled and lost her bearing. When her parents were away from home, the neighbor attacked, luring the younger to a 25-year-old boy she barely knew. These are her words. I thought that with him, life would be good, says Juliet. The neighbor convinced me that the boy's family will provide clothes, food, everything for me, and I thought I can take care of him. He took me to another district. Juliet's child marriage is not unique. 1 out of every 4 women in Uganda were married as children. Today, while these figures can be partly attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic that forced schools to shut for over a year, actually it's 2 years, high levels of poverty, negligence by parents and local leaders to protect children, especially the girls, cannot be understated. It happens often because they don't feel loved and supported at home, says Margaret Ayazabiwe, a World Vision Technical Program Officer, Child Protection in Uganda. Instead, they took to a man to love and support them. Schoolgirls envy their married peers who get lots of attention as well as gifts, new clothes, and often babies. Juliet quickly realized her mistake. I like school very much, so I was sad. I insisted that I wanted to go back home. I didn't want to be married anymore, she says. Though Juliet didn't know it, people in her community were looking for her, praying and working together to bring her home. Elder, the next slide, please. So returning to school with new resolve, with the help of the Child Wellbeing Committee, Juliet was traced to Kengewa district and reunited with the family. When they came to get me, those are her words, I realized how much people care for and love me, says Juliet, that's a 15-year-old girl. Smiling through, people encourage me to go back to school. It gives me courage. If I'm educated, I can help my family. But these people see me as a champion. Juliet still struggles to afford a secondary education. During the rainy season, she works with her parents. I look at the female teachers and nurses I admire and think they were once girls like me, she says. I see that they treat everyone kindly with care and love. I want to be like that. The love that Juliet has received inspires her to use her story to help other girls. Her message to friends is loud and clear. What I want to tell other girls is not to just go with it because it seems like an easy way out or a romantic wish. Go to school. That's the only thing that will give you opportunities in the future. Child marriage, summarized into one word for me, is problems. Thank you, sir. Go to the next slide. So meeting the welfare of children is when everyone's responsibility. Participation must be inclusive. Avoid existence of discrimination and encourage them, the marginalized children, both girls and boys and older persons, to be involved. Everyone has to be involved. Partnership is strength, and engaging key stakeholders in implementation is a way of synergizing resources. Many orphaned, vulnerable children in Uganda who are cared for by the elderly. The older persons are identified, suspectical, or vulnerable to elder abuse, negligent, but still less prioritized in government programming and budgeting. Next, Elder. So here, inadequate resources so these are our challenges. The challenges we have been inadequate resources. Challenges first, thank you, sir. The challenges that we are facing as JAFOA, though we have the heart to do it, the heart to support, the heart to implement, but number one, we have the inadequate resources for effective programming of friendly intervention. We have increased rates of child marriages, teenage pregnancy, school dropout, elder abuse, and neglect amidst this COVID-19. Actually, amid the COVID-19, Uganda has been on lockdown. Schools have not been operational for 2 years, the entire 2020 and 2021. So in this lockdown, the rate of girls dropping out of school was too high. This is due to gender-based violence in our communities. You can just visit www.monitor.co.ug, Uganda News National, girls impregnated in Lango in 1 year NGO. So that's Lango region is where we operate from. That's the northern Uganda. Thank you. Then we have the increased demand for age-friendly social services like healthcare, livelihood, opportunities, among others. We have high level of poverty within the communities of the older persons, the caregivers. Then we have inadequate civil society organizations to advocate in advocacy on what the OVCs, the elderly, the women they are facing, and implementation of policies and programs that target the elderly person by government of Uganda. The next slide, Elder. So our opportunities, we have opportunities in Uganda. What are these opportunities? Yeah, we have conducive political environment. That's political stability in the country. That's if you choose to come and work with us in Uganda. These are the opportunities we have. Uganda has good sites for tourists as well. We have the existence of different CSOs. CSOs is civil society organization platforms, networks, like we have the UnityNet Africa for information, knowledge, and experience sharing. We have existence of national and international legal frameworks on elderly and the children, international donors and humanitarian agencies with potential to support the elderly, the children, related development programs. Our good working relationship as JAFOA or at JAFOA with the Uganda government line ministries, the district local governments, the communities, and different NGOs in the country. Then we have the good hospitality too in Uganda. Thank you, Elder. Next. So the future plans, what are our plans in the future as JAFOA? To mobilize resources for effective planning, implementation, monitoring, and evolution of programs. We have empowerment, our future plans too, empowerment of communities, children, the older women to respond to child marriages, teenage pregnancy, the elder abuse, and neglect. Number 3, we have that to create a strategic partnership for information, resource, and expertise sharing. Then number 4, we have the support of formal education for the poor, orphan, vulnerable children. Provide vocational education for out of school, those that dropped out of school. Yeah, and then we have to improve access to age-friendly healthcare services for the elderly persons, to improve strategic planning, capacity strengthening of our human resource for improved service delivery at community level. Remember, we are working from that. Our future plans is to see that happen. Then we have establishment of standard homes for the older persons with caregivers so that they can be given good quality of life and supported in each region in Uganda. Remember, we don't have homes for the elderly here. So it's our future plan to have these homes established. Just in one of our photos, we saw where they stay. It's next to sleeping outside. Establishment of recreational centers that will bring older persons, these orphan vulnerable children to support each other. Then we have establishment of psychosocial centers. Those are counseling centers. We don't have one here. So at JAFOA, as our future plans, I know which will be achieved anyway by faith. We are planning to have a psychosocial center. It won't be only for the elderly, even for the gender-based violence women who are facing issues in their marriage. They can get to the center and be counseled and be given hope for their marriages, even the children. Then we have to create a conducive place for international partnership to come in. Elder, the next slide. I'm almost done. Yeah, now that's me. Yeah, visiting for emotional therapy. We are good at that. We do that. And when we leave, they are happy. The next, that's a group photo with the staff, community leaders after distributing basic needs. Next, there we are as well, visiting their homes. Yeah. So we have also the children, the vulnerable children from the streets. Yeah. To generate their needs and their concerns. And we are also giving masks during the COVID-19. Next slide, sir. Thank you so much. I am done, and I'm so happy to be given this time as a women and children activist in Uganda, looking forward for better results. And I thank my elders, Elder Andrew, Elder Lloyd, Elder Carlos, and the global leadership and the continental leadership, and also my team in Uganda. I say thank you so much, and all the participants who are online right now and listening to me. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Elder. I am humbled. That's all from Malaika. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Gabriella. It's always good. It's good to know that what you are actually doing in Uganda, because I've known you for a while as well, since we established the UnityNet Uganda discussion group, and eventually, of course, UnityNet Africa and Diaspora. But knowing the specifics of what you actually do on the ground is always important for us to know, especially as well the conditions of the people who are living in these local communities, which we are trying to affect positively as we can, even from our remote locations, not quite halfway around the world, but many, many time zones away. So I guess at this point, I will open the floor for anybody that wishes to ask questions of Gabriella or of myself as well. If you are new to the Global Unity Network person, we ask that you could also introduce yourself. I'm just looking through the names on the screen. We usually ask some of the women in our network as well. Besides our guest speaker, of course, Gabriella has introduced herself quite well in the last 40 minutes or so. And but to introduce others that are on our network, such as Juliet Miabo.
Yes. Hi, good evening, everyone. May I speak, Leader Lloyd?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, no, you know what, I'm sitting here as I was going through and listening to the presentation. I I mean, I guess I'm one of those that cry easily. I mean, I was very close to tears because of two reasons. One, firstly, that the program that JAFOA is doing, it's so close to our heart, or to my heart. And that is the work, and as you know, as I've shared with you before, Lloyd, that is also our area here in South Africa of weakness. But I'll unpack that in the presentation. And the challenges are so similar. And I mean, I was close to tears to see that across the continent. I mean, it's not an urban problem. Even in those rural areas of Uganda, they're facing the same challenges. The elderly, we call them bokuku, which is the elderly, bokuku, and the OVCs in Uganda are going through exactly what the OVCs and the elderly in the urban areas of Soweto are also going through. So I'm also just overjoyed that at least there are areas of synergy that I see in the program that JAFOA is doing. And I think, first of all, I want to commend the team, the JAFOA team, for the work that they're doing. I think it's exceptional. It even made it worse, secondly, that the model child there happens to be Juliet. And I could just identify with her. Obviously, I've never been through any forced marriage or even any marriage, thank goodness. I might have to get counseling there. But it was just because we have a case of a girl called Katleho. I mean, she's one of many who's gone through a similar situation. So there's a lot that we are learning, or we can learn from what JAFOA is doing, and we can have shared experiences. But it is so similar in the areas of synergy, and I really thank God and appreciate this network, because when you are dealing with your problems in your own country or your own community, you tend to feel, though you do see other statistics nationally or internationally, but you do tend to feel isolated and alone. So the details of this program has just made us realize that, you know what, we are one in this struggle. Particularly, we also focus on the elderly, bokuku, and tots and kids. We start from the age of 2, up to the age of 20. But I really much appreciate this, and well done, and thank you to the team here. I look forward to helping us to synergize across the borders on areas of similarity, and where South Africa can support, we'll support, and we'll also learn where we can learn. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Juliet, because this is part of the reason why we do have these forums, so that people can understand what each other are doing, the struggles they go through, and some of the potential solutions that we want to share across the platform. And this is the purpose of the Global Unity Network platform, is to have these conversations, even with people outside of Africa who may be struggling with some of the same issues, in, for instance, South Asia or Southeast Asia, as well as even South America, as we expand our networks beyond, and where we try to identify the actual solutions, and then hopefully raise the money through our campaigns from the private sector, from governments, from foundations, and whatnot, to be able to actually implement these solutions in all our local communities, in the partnerships that Gabriella pointed out to us are so important to create in the local community. So maybe what I can ask is Rose. I'm seeing.
Sorry, Leader Lloyd.
Yes, Julia.
Yeah, just one point. It was just interesting to see that there was no highlight of any drug problems that the OVCs are facing that side, because it's something that we are faced with our OVCs, and also it directly affects the elderly, because when the OVCs get into drugs, then they start crossing the line and start getting into incestuous and rape to the elderly, you know, even if it's their own grandparents. So it was actually quite a positive, inverted commas, to see that factor, Uganda, well, that side, they don't seem to be dealing with it. I guess
Perhaps
it's good.
Gabriella could comment on that, if there is any of that in Uganda with drug issue.
Yes, thank you so much, Mama Juliet Munyebo. Thank you for your question. Yes, yes, in Uganda, we have a high use of drugs among the children. Those are the OVCs, because they are idle, they're not going to school. There is nothing making them busy. And actually, it's the survey that we are now working on at JAFOA at now, both for the older persons and the children. So there is a high use of tobacco, and tobacco, they misuse it actually. And we want to see how we can help these OVCs to get out of drug addiction, that's tobacco, marijuana, and to get them busy. Yes, I think in the next 1 or 2 weeks, we shall be coming out with figures of the rate of drug addiction, especially tobacco and marijuana amongst the OVCs and the older persons, both men and women in Uganda, and how we can go about it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for
So
that.
it actually sounds like these problems again are similar, but it just happened to be that in her presentation, she didn't have those statistics and she couldn't really address that in the specific presentation
Thank you.
she had created. So again,
thank you.
Perhaps we can get some comments or questions from or introductions from others, such as Rose Wanda Wario.
Yeah, I have a question. If it's okay, Lloyd?
Yes, go ahead.
Gabrielle.
Ahead,
I wondering if you have a program for income generating for the group. How do you like a sustainable aspect of the provide the funding on this? Do you have like a income generating effort, like whether gardening or maybe some other aspect?
Well, it is a business, and so we do have a model for the network, but it is in the works right now. So it is based on the events that we do. So we are a promotional organization. We are promoting all of our members and their activities, and so we are based on this model of delivering the platforms for the exchanges that we are making, as in this event, and for the programs for establishing these networks. So the local community-based networks that we are establishing, these come together through the partnerships, of course. And so as we create the network, as we expand the network, there are opportunities for sponsorship.
What about locally, Lloyd? I'm looking like locally. Can we empower them through the some activities that maybe encourage them to do more in terms of sustainability?
Yeah, well, we can obviously we try to encourage and empower our members to interact and create partnerships with these local organizations. So, for instance, Gabriella in Uganda and her organization could benefit by a partnership with, for instance, your organization, right? And you could create a project in partnership with Gabriella to address some of the issues that she's struggling with, as she's pointed out many of the things that she's struggling with. So we encourage partnership around the world and across our network between the different organizations, but we don't fund the individual projects. We are only promoting through the events and developing the platform.
Lord, Gabriella has her hand raised.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead, Gabriella, if you would like to.
Thank you so much, Elder. I think you've answered Elder Irwan, the one was
Yeah.
just spoken about the partnership and how we can empower these vulnerable economically. I think you've answered him. Yes, I raised the hand before you answered that, but now I can just add on. Yes, we are looking forward to partnership. As I had said, partnership is power and strength. So here in Uganda at JAFOA, you get these older persons and the children, they're into drugs, just the way Juliet said, they're into drugs, tobacco, marijuana, because they're idle. But here we have the vast land. The land is available for any project, for economic empowering of these vulnerable women and children, for them to be busy and get something to promote their life or to make their life moving. Thank you so much, Elder Lloyd, for emphasizing on that. And I just wanted to add on. Thank you so much. Let me lower my hand.
Thank you, everyone.
Wow, I was just comment.
Trying to.
Would it be possible to combine what Lloyd say, that we can network for the same purpose? For example, maybe in other countries in Africa, they can develop this older people or separate children and older people program that they can communicate, network, so there's a synergy that can be developed as far as for the whole network where everybody has the same purpose. That would be great, I think.
Well, this is part of the problem with, I think, many of these, especially rural communities, and I think Juliet can speak to that as well in South Africa. I think they're working with many rural communities that don't actually have internet access or very unreliable internet access. And this is part of the reason for wishing to establish these unity gardens to be able to provide high-speed internet access. And so this is the partnership, for instance. It wasn't in the slides I presented today, but for instance here, as we develop a Unity Garden demonstration garden, literally a garden in this case, here in Toronto area, we want to partner, for instance, with the Foundation for Building Sustainable Communities, who's developing, and they in turn partner with the IEEE, which will help to provide funds to provide the internet access in off-grid, basically off-grid solar-powered modules that will then provide high-speed internet powered by the sun, powered with renewable energy, where we can now have a garden that is connected to the internet, where people can, from the community, can come in and we can deliver some of the programs in partnership with people like Gabriella in the local communities, who's now created a partnership at the local level with all of the 7 sectors that we've identified are necessary to deliver these programs for the humanitarian entrepreneurs who want to uplift their community through their business. So I'm hoping that we haven't introduced everybody on the call. Perhaps Gemma could introduce herself today again.
Lloyd, sorry, Professor.
Yes, go ahead, Juliet.
Yes, maybe just before the introductions, I just want to ask just one question. Is it okay to this?
Go ahead.
Speaker?
Go ahead. This is open discussion right now.
Okay, awesome. The one question is the involvement of the faith-based organizations. Yeah, that's another. Yeah, the involvement of the faith-based organizations, because here in South Africa, one of the things that we are going to be working on, and I spoke to Lloyd about that, is getting the faith-based organizations to be relevant and to use the 10% tithe towards some of these programs. So I just want to know if there is that support in Uganda. And then the other question, the other point I wanted to make was that I wanted to invite Open Africa. I don't know if you know what colleagues on the group. It's an NGO that always focused on tourism within the African continent. But currently they're changing their focus. And it's an NGO like that, such as Open Africa. Maybe if Andrew and Lloyd can look into it and see, because they're open to a discussion. We spoke about it here within South Africa in terms of how they could work with us in getting some of these digital ICT internet solutions, particularly to the vulnerable women and children, for them to have access to whatever emergency communication and information. So if we can maybe consider Open Africa and we can discuss, then I can always invite them maybe somehow to be part of the platform because they are open to ideas, so that when we roll out or when they are keen on rolling out in South Africa, then they can immediately make another model maybe for Uganda or Kenya, because I know they have a lot of tourists. So the tourism that is big in Uganda does not have to go only to looking at animals, but it can also, we can expand to that space. Then the last question I wanted to mention was the schooling system. How available is the department or is the government in allowing JAFOA and them to intervene directly in the curriculum or in the school activities? Or are they only forced to do their work in communities? Okay.
I guess that was a question for Gabriella at the end there.
Yes, that was for Gabriella, please.
You'll need to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much for the questions, Madam Juliet Miabo. Yeah, the first question was about involvement with the faith-based organization. Actually, that's what we have done with JAFOA. We have approached the faith-based organization. In my presentation, you could see we are partnering with a ministry called Power of the Living Word Ministries in London. That's the UK, whereby they use their 10%, that's their tithe, to also give support to the vulnerable. So here in Uganda, not all the churches so far, they have that idea of the 10% and to be used to give back to the community. So most of them, the 10% is meant for the pastor and the pastor's family or the bishop's family. So very few church leaders, they use that 10% to take it back to the community. So blessed is South Africa, where they're using the 10% to support the vulnerable, the orphans, and the elderly in the communities. So that idea of the networking with the faith-based organizations in Uganda, it has not been revived. It has not been brought up so well. So I think that's also another area whereby we can also focus and we see how we can bring them on board. Then the next question was Open Africa, focus on tourism. Yeah, in my presentation, I mentioned it. One of our key areas is about what can attract partners to come to Uganda and work with us at JAFOA. I mentioned of tourism. Actually, apart from the Pearl of Africa, Uganda being the Pearl of Africa, and apart from having these nice sceneries in Uganda, we can also have this tourism coming and supporting, like the makeshift shelter that you saw where this vulnerable are staying, like that older person, the older man you saw, he has grandchildren that stay with him in that makeshift house. So those are some of the sites or the tourism that Open Africa can come in and support. We move around and we see how Uganda is, the level of vulnerability, then we can give our support. And then the next is a schooling system. In Uganda, actually, in Uganda, we have the schooling system, and most of the schools they are not government, they have privatized education in Uganda. So to mention about what you had asked about, Sorry, I just muted. Schooling system. The schooling system in Uganda, schools have been privatized. So you find the government schools are very few. Even if the schools which are government are free, it's to a particular limit number. And when they support like school alone, they don't school fees, they don't support the requirements. So you find these vulnerable orphan children under the elderly, those ones who are on the streets who are desiring to go back to school. Yes, they can go to school, but now if government has paid a half of the fees, who will pay the other half and will provide for the school requirement, the books, the pens, the pencils, the girls need the pads to go to school. So it becomes a hitch for them to pursue education. So as at JAFOA, we just step in where we can. That's why I'm calling out there, people who can come in, the well-hearted, who can come in, we partner, we support these orphan vulnerable children. Let them not go into drugs. We empower them economically, let them get busy. The land is vast in Uganda. We can do agriculture, we can do something to bring in money for them to be able to support themselves, to go for vocational education. Because even in Uganda, vocational education is not for free. It isn't for free, you pay for it. Be it hairdressing, be it welding, be it mechanic, you pay for it. So, and the numbers are going higher and higher. So about the school system in Uganda, they don't consider that much. Most schools are privatized. And the government one, as I said, they don't fully take charge of all the school fees for the children, their requirements. So you find widows struggling with their kids, the widowers struggling with their children, the older persons struggling with the children that were left behind by their children who passed on due to HIV and other issues. Thank you so much. I think I've exhausted my questions. Thank you, Elder Lloyd, for the time I'm really sweating.
Well done. Thank you so much.
So I'm hoping some others on the call. I'm seeing it is now 10 after 1 in my local time, which means we've been on the call for over 2 hours already. I just think we can probably think about wrapping up fairly soon. I'm not sure if Andrew would like to say anything else to close us out, or if there are other questions or people that would like to introduce themselves as well. Now is the time to open the chat to anybody else that would like to perhaps say a few words or make comments or ask questions, or perhaps just introduce themselves if they are new to our network. Seeing nobody at this point in time, I suppose that we can probably close out the day. I'm seeing Vivian. Perhaps you can unmute yourself, Vivian.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can see me. I'm quite new to this beautiful Zoom of yours, and it's just so good. And I was just listening and trying to absorb, because it's my very first evening or day that I'm listening to the Zoom. So I am the advisor, or the advisor committee or commission for education for Manzi for Life, Southern Africa. So I really want to comment positively in terms of just all of us being here, different cultures, but a common goal. And that is what really speaks to my heart. So I was listening also very, very diligently, Gabriella, to your story. And I know there are so many of us that experience the same kind of thing on different parts of the global, but also more so on Africa. And it's also very good, Prof. Lloyd, to hear that according to the previous presentation, that we need to really zoom into bringing peace and that kind of liberty and cooperative working, collaborative together, in first, also and foremost, or amongst others, I should say, looking at, I would want to call it the eco society, which is our trees, our nature. And that was just so good to see how all of those kinds of ideas were highlighted here. So yes, Gabriella, I will think of how I could also maybe just be of help. I have something that is, but just sort of on the springboard. It is a program that I'm working on for my own independent organization and also my business. Is if there's anything that I could perhaps just do, even if it's just an idea to start off with, I will be so happy to share that with you. Okay. So yeah, this is just my bit, but the first and the best is it was the best for me as a first a receiver of all of these information to be on the Zoom with all of you this evening. It's evening time in South Africa, Cape Town. So yes, I really enjoyed it. And I also like the way how Julia just come in to be coming alongside of Gabriella, especially with regards to her beautiful presentation. Thank you so much. Okay.
Yes, I want to especially thank Gabriella. She's been doing a fantastic job working with the others.
Lloyd, if I may, this is
across
Andrew Williams Jr. I apologize. I'm in traffic and I can't hear well, but I do want to let you know that this will be continuing on a weekly basis throughout at least the end of this year. The idea is that we have a common platform where we can bring together in one place all of the success stories. That's what I have to ask all of us to do, to begin to bring these success stories, even if on a smaller scale, and then compare that with the larger challenge we have, so we can scale up ways that we can adapt solutions for those activities. For any new members, please in the chat include your name, your organization, your email, if you choose your WhatsApp organization, all in one, so that in the future, as we begin to edit, we'll know how to contact you and follow up. This is Andrew Williams Jr. again. Thank you very much. And back to you, Lloyd.
So thank you very much, Andrew. I think that could be our closing remarks as well, unless, again, if anybody else would like to have a final question or comment or other remark on what they've seen today. If not, I see now 1:15 my time, so that is taking us a little bit over 2 hours today. I think this was a good session. We will, as Andrew said, continue these every Thursday. You will see new slides, so it won't be the exact same presentation every week. As things evolve in our network and we focus down on the essence of what we are trying to do through the network in assisting people around the world to educate themselves and exchange ideas and empower their neighbors and create these what we call humanitarian enterprises. This is where we really would like to emphasize we can really change the world sort of one community at a time through these systems of social businesses working together across the realm of the 7 sectors that we would like to establish partnerships in every community around the world. So thank you very much again, Gabriella and Andrew, and everybody that was on the call today. I guess that will wrap us up for the 33rd week of our IGU Summit for today.